Okay, hello everyone, welcome to tonight's episode. There may be some sounds interfering with the episode, but just treat it like as if you're hearing me talk outside. I would like to begin the episode by sharing an idea which for some time I have been working on. And today has been a slightly emotional day for me, so I would ask the listeners to excuse the turbulence. The idea has been kind of brewing in my mind for a while, from the first time I saw a pilot's cabin to a point where I wondered if human beings can pilot their attention, their intelligence, and their consciousness even. And so there is this idea of free will, that whoever you are on this planet, you need to look into this idea, because this idea is where our decisions come from. How we as people explain our own decisions to ourselves. So there is an importance to being patient enough and recognizing one's own piloting ability. Guys, I think I found a solution to this fan noise problem. Hold on. Okay, maybe not. But anyways, to continue, the importance of piloting one's free will, being patient enough to realize this in this life, wondering about the free will's role in everything, and really, where is the boundary? Where do we have free will and where do we stop having free will? For example, in front of my eyes, I have a certain amount of free will in regards to moving my body, in regards to moving other objects around me, in regards to communication. But when I wonder about behind my eyes, what kind of free will I have, behind the eyes of the person, and I mean the domain of the mind, the atmosphere, the space of the mind. Behind one's eyes, free will is completely different. First thing is, free will is instantaneous. That means one can instantly remember, one can instantly visualize anything else, and one's forgetfulness in the inner realms is more like Tetris layers piling up and the attention going to the new Tetris layers that are falling down into one's mind. So that means the mind keeps an immediate event alive, but it is found in a certain context to itself. So behind one's eyes, I call that the inner realms. In the inner realms, in the instantaneity of thought, what we are treating as thought for now, Okay, I even tried restarting the computer and to no avail. So anyways, I'll continue. In front of our eyes, a certain range of free will. Behind our eyes, we are the free will. We are instantaneous movement. Ultimately, when one has to be honest with the realm, they can't ignore what they are. When they go to see what they are, they notice themselves that the mind is the watcher of the intelligence, the observer of the intelligence, and the body is what is being observed in one's own intelligence. That means the body is perceiving itself. It's like the mind is perceiving the body as an outsider in order to be able to compute it, in some sense. So it could be that human psychology is strangely designed to watch itself as it is being itself, or there's something else. It's more like a Rene Descartes mind-body dualism. The mind is doing something that the body can't figure out. The mind, it's like the same way of a remote control car moving, and the car can't see the remote control and can't see the person moving the remote control. So the car will try as hard as it wants to figure out its intelligence. Best conclusion it comes to is, in some sense, okay, I'm an antenna to be moved. Now, in some sense, what is the animate component in the moment? Because we can't ignore creativity. It's so strange that we dismiss imagination. We're like, nowadays, but if we really look at where reality came from, everything that is real now was once imagined. Even products we find in stores, they were once an idea, and that idea suddenly got geometry, and the more geometry it got, the more animate it became, right? And so it's as if like eternity has found geometry, and then the story of civilization sparked. A beautiful question has found the chat section. In the chat section, Snapple says, where does reality meet non-reality? Welcome to mysticism. Welcome to, now you understand the reason why I say the unknown, the unknown, the unknown repeatedly. There's some teachers sharing knowledge and there's some people, it's like, hey, what do we do with this giant unknown that's here? So I would say in a simple way, I would say reality and non-reality. We are considering that where does something become known? When does something become unknown? Now check this out. I would say that when we go towards space, we think of as if our sight, a sight is a sphere, okay? Or how would I say it? I would say, very simply, what's in your attention is real to you. What is not in your attention doesn't even have the luxury of being reality or imagination. We were silent creatures, pretty much silent biological movements, let's say biomechanical movements on the surface of the earth. Now, this biological complexity, this complex biological movement, found a way to notice itself simply in all moments. It's really the sound of matter that is being in multiple ways interpreted. That means realistically what people are hearing right now is just a biological creature making sound. Now the sophistication of, all right, what did this sound mean? What did that sound mean? You know, sometimes I hear like bird calls or certain animals make certain noises, and I'm like, what if this noise is actually a significant noise they use in another culture? Do you know what I mean? That means it's like the probability of the human ability to perceive experience. That means I don't know how to say it, but it's like right now I'm being an object, and before I speak, honestly, speech, the way I'm speaking at least right now, it feels like I'm in two rooms. It feels I'm in this very visual, physical, sensory room, and then there, it also feels that this sensory room is being watched, not by anything outside of the moment, as the by the whole moment. So it's like I'm watching my physical body, but I'm also watching how my physical body is simultaneously being the movement of my mind. That means it's like there is something, that something is moving. There's an intent and aim. Now I can take this view that, okay, we just became a biological hard drive that could collect enough information to animate psychology for itself. But I feel when we look at the creative effort, that means really I'm making a claim that the artistic vision is no normal vision. That means it's like artwork. I mean, in some sense, I mean, sure, let's say some people can be like Picasso, you know, the introduction of the silly becomes the incredible, for it had never been introduced. But you can also say that it is seeing something that is not seen yet, strangely. So it's like Jonathan Swift saying vision is the art of seeing that which is invisible to others. Jonathan focusing supremely on just reality having to be materialistic, it in some sense dismisses the focus, because the most important question spiritual people should ask, or any person who considers some sort of beyond this dimension movement, if the idea of truth is an inconceivable, beyond the description and definitions and behaviors of matter, there has never been a spiritual person, there has never been a spiritual body. It is something of the quality of nature. That means I would say the word spiritual, now looking at it, it's like doesn't make sense. Not in the way that atheists would like to believe, but in a way it doesn't make sense in the sense of it's like make up your mind already moment. Either it is an object moving a subject, either it is not an object moving a subject. If it is not an object, it's not through objects. That means it's as if being a human being in a metaphysical standpoint could be said to be like a person's hand from like a superior dimension inside a glove. Okay, and the glove has become conscious, but the glove doesn't know its movement is the hand. That means it's gonna be this great laughter at the end of history, you know. It's as if I find beyond the physical domain, if attention goes, it'll be just like, oh my God, it's not physical. Because there could be intelligence. That means we have managed to fathom intelligence in the observable. What? There is no intelligence in the unobservable. It's all just hiding in the observable. The observable intelligence is it's just how far the species has come. That means if somebody says, do you know what the mind is? The answer till the end of time should be no. But because it's silent and we're in the void and there's nothing to do, we communicate. Because ideas come and go, they're like visitors. You know what it's like? It's as if like these ideas I am getting in these talks, they're kind of like, I'm like a tour guide from both angles, you know? Intelligence can be considered through four angles. This is my contribution so far. I hope the pilots and advanced communicators of the future take this even further. But I have concluded that intelligence has four possible outcomes, and it can be reduced in these numbers: 0, 1, 2, and infinity. The reason I don't say after 2 there is 3, 4, 5, because the moment you have duality, infinity is there. Infinity accompanies duality, wherever duality goes. You know, just like the void is like the guardian angel of the concept of oneness, let's say, we have infinity as the guardian angel of duality, you know? So true order versus true chaos, it's like the void inconceivable versus the infinite conceivable. And in at least Vedic thought, the idea of the Asuras and Devas, or in Greek mythology, where either people are thinking of being singular or dual or void and infinite. So I would say intelligence can lead to nothing. We have to prepare for that outcome. Intelligence can lead to all being one singular energy. You require to prepare for that outcome. Intelligence can just be the endless dance of chaos and order, as if all the enlightened beings in the realm were like, they shouted at the world, not people. They shouted at the world and they're like, hey, chaos, the force of chaos, the forces of order. How long you gotta keep this up? You know? And the chaos and order of dimensions got offended. Like imagine a whole universal sector gets offended and advances itself. You know, it's like a human being who can't communicate to human beings. It's like, oh man, you know, so the person communicates to the living earth. And when you communicate to the planet, it's not that you are the planet, because anytime we become something, any sort of fathomable focal point or terminal of communication, any of these disappear in unity. And so as one lives more a life that is collective than individual, they will begin noticing kind of like the drop algorithms of their psyche infusing and merging. It's kind of like the polished soul, poetically I would say. Your soul becomes polished by your abidance by its nature, in a strange way of saying it. So these fathomable ways, the last one would come infinity. That means we have to even prepare. That means we prepared for an outcome that is nothing. We prepared for an outcome that is singular. We prepared for an outcome that is dual. Now we have to prepare for an outcome that is infinite. As if beyond the human framework there is just like a galactic theater show that we have no clue is going on, but is. Right? When you look at Vedic thought, the war there, it's as if the writer of the Vedas so if we can live as human beings that don't fear the void, but understand it, attempt to comprehend it, try to find a way our cultural programs can wield it. Then we go to the singular and we have this view, okay, and this is the easiest. Like people know this, and this is really the task of the lovers of the realm. All those people in the winds of love. It's like the ultimate realization is, as Rumi says it best: lovers don't find each other. um, they were in each other all along, in the sense of as if like their moments coexistence belong together, something like that. You know, a sort of singularity of being. There we go, singularity of being. Now then, the dualization of different beings. That means it's as if like, I don't know, if I was to really quickly like, either there is one earth, either there is one world, or there are two worlds. This is the paradigm of movement. Either it's just complete void, and then there is the infinite side of the coin. Now, I feel what the true teaching of the Vedas were is that infinity can't be taught. That means if you want to learn how to be finite in a certain way, sure, you can go learn that. But infinity is something where only the observer, that means out of all the things the person has trusted in the realm, out of all the voices, all the behaviors, all the appearances of the changing realm, the watcher that the one's intelligence is, the watcher within. This is it. In the Upanishads, they have this saying, it's hilarious. They would say, neti, neti, not this, not this. And it's as if like all these people freaked out about enlightenment and were like, yo, is this enlightenment? Am I enlightened now? And all the enlightened teachers were like, not this. It's not this, man. In a world that we have to treat to be true to live in, we are wondering about the truth of life. We have to prepare for such multidimensionality. It's as if everything we do is not enough. And you know, in some sense, I would say my intent of communication is kind of like I just feel that if people can know what the future can be like, the eyes of their future self assists them, but more than the eyes of their past self. You know, emotions come when you suddenly get pushed into your past. I find something from the past changes, something the person notices. And behavior is so complex that sometimes, like every understanding of karma is in a humanized way. That means what would dehumanize karma? That means if there were two aliens fighting in like some atmosphere of some planet, and they were completely like unfathomable to us, but they were aliens, right? And they fought, like what would be the karma of aliens fighting? You know what I mean? Like it's as if the karma moves, when it moves beyond humanization, it becomes dismissive of just individualism at some point. That means it's like I'm here saying, hey, human species, right now we are very content saying we're natural dualistic beings. You know, in language. Language is a dualistic technology. That means you can't speak without, having an ego. It's impossible. Because as Alan Watts says, the ego is attention to the self, the most immediate self in motion. I would say the best thing is people treat the content of their mind, whatever they find their mind is, as a sort of Iron Man suit. this realm cannot be owned, and its owner cannot be fathomed, even if it has. So ultimately, human beings are left to treating it as a blank page, and communicating and living their lives, every human being, with the recognition that their eyes have never existed before until now. There's a significance in every person's life force. And I don't know, a person has emotions, but how many of those emotions are in the humanizable category? How many of those emotions can relate to just human psychology? Because the way our attention is, it's like a person, anybody who has access, who their mind feels to them like a room. For me, my mind is like a room. That means visualization is happening somewhere, so it's happening in the room of my mind, I consider. Now, what's interesting is that the person is neither what is in front of their eyes and neither what is behind their eyes, to the degree that they can choose to link the significance of the object in front of their eyes and the subject behind their eyes. And so we may innately, just by our natural design, learn how to be an object. That means if you look enough at people, you what's the term? You catch the drift. But I'm saying, like, it on some, how would I say? We are observing in an unknown way we are observing in an unknown way how we are observing the known and controlling the known and creating and destroying the known. That means it's kind of like camera, like a camera connected to another camera. Do you know? It's like there's two cameras. One is unknown, one is known. Now the unknown camera we considered as mind, and due to its abstract nature, we even feel that it's just an energetic truth of intelligence, a present everywhere energetic truth of intelligence. It's like we have to quickly come to our senses and also prepare for exhibitions beyond them. Now, to connect this to the importance of piloting, the idea of piloting means, on some level, you gotta know your plane of existence. That means I have spent a lot of time, for example, knowing my inner realms. But when it comes to the outer realms, there are things that are like, you know, it's I don't see, for example. I haven't paid attention enough to create that sort of pattern. But I would say the piloting comes in regards to choice, and we have to choose a context to live in. And the moment we choose the context we want to live in, then we can conceptualize very easy, right? And the thing about philosophy is that philosophy is there to intentionally change the context of the world. That's what philosophers are looking for, because the concept could be anything if it's dependent on a bigger thing. I need a quick intermission, folks. I'll be back. Okay. To continue, we are alive once. Regardless of whatever decision, the decision maker is important to comprehend. I find every human being who is born in the world, they have a value system. Their value system changes, and that's why a person's character changes. And the different actions a human being does is like the different input of character. As if the moment is always this meal that we are endlessly putting like a chaos and order, like salt and pepper on endlessly. And it's like, hey, the meal changes, and we're just the same algorithm repeats. It could be that it's as if like fiction is moving non-fiction. And so we can't accept non-fiction as non-fiction anymore and fiction as fiction anymore. So this having to be ultimately certain about what the world has to be in every moment, that it's like that goes away. We learn to live with the unknown as if it's like this giant in the world and we have to live with it. Just like the biological body, I would say it's a lot of it is involuntary. And I feel if we are defining our free will based on our manifest body in our consciousness, then the moment our consciousness perceives something that is either not this manifest body or has moved beyond this manifest body, let's say even the dismissal after death, and so it becomes beyond our attention. We are less dependent on the content in the attention than outside of it. I would say life is about getting to know, you getting to the discovery of the known self and the known world. Now we say after we've known ourselves and we've known the world, what comes next? So eventually, just right now, the known self and the known world are not updated, so there's room to doubt. But if the known self and the known world, we have discovered everything to the edge of, let's say, a possibility, and let's say the universe's edges was finite, like the universe was a room, and we went to a point where we hit a wall. Right, so if we had seen everything about the known, the unknown would automatically be left. That would be the next thing. So if human beings can prepare a civilization where known walks of life and unknown walks of life are helping to build like a backup system for the future where all avenues of psychological display and expression can fit in. You know, some visions are all over the place, and that's the biggest clue. Discovering or familiarizing oneself with the known variables of their moment, the unknown variables. Now, in the unknown variables, one taps into this by recognizing they are an unknown observer of their known life. And when one is content enough to be the unknown self, the next thing they need to be content with is to be able to perceive any image in the inner realms, but be able to also move instantly past it. That means it's kind of like watching your mind, but also having an ability to fast forward. That's where creativity I would say, can come. When someone moves towards something. I mean, the concept of the muse, the concept of inspiration. Now, people can be inspired by other human beings. They can be inspired by, I don't know, let's say animal life. They can, wildlife. They can be inspired by themselves, let's say. But now, they can be inspired by even, let's say, unknown factors. Like, I'm pretty sure that a percentage of human beings on this planet, they're not just entertaining just the good old material earth every moment. Like the concept of, it's more like our brains are like a candle flame, and that glow is what we know. And all that meditation truly meant was to realize your true nature. To realize, to understand something. I feel, because I consider the world as unknown, and it took me a while to realize, because I'm a part of the world, I'm unknown too. Every moment is just an opportunity to know things. In every moment is filled the world. It's like the content is already there. What will happen after elemental existence? The answer is not I don't know. The answer is the I doesn't know. And in a strange way, it's as if communication is a translation of some sort of emotional impact or event. You know, because sometimes I wonder, it's as if like there has to be something where the spotlight of attention is pointed to. Now, a person can pay attention to just themselves, and for those who need healing, that's usually the way to go. Any sort of healing in any sort of context, you got to pay attention to how you're being a self in the realm, how you're being a self in the natural world, and how the natural world is treating you, and that really means how you're interpreting the world. That means if somebody came to you right now and said, hey, do you have resistance against this world? It's like, do you trust this realm or do you distrust this realm? Like all of those factor in, right? And obviously an advanced civilization is one where there isn't just trust and distrust, there's multiple angles of that, and trust has become so many times like a perfect strategy. That means let's say the quicker the species trusts itself and ascends towards a new global morality and ethos, like a pilot. Let me start here. A pilot um, um, exists to navigate the plane of existence. Now, when one gets into an airplane, let's say you're the pilot of an airplane, so you're responsible for that whole plane of the whole airplane, right? And so similarly, one's consciousness, the person looking out through their eyes, that intelligence that is looking out through your eyes, that intelligence must become responsible for its plane of existence, but has to make a choice if it sees the realm multidimensional. You know, that means a person can just take the easy way and say, yeah, it all doesn't mean anything, so we just all just relax and don't do anything. You know, but that relaxation comes to the cost of what could have been if we had wondered about the edge of our efforts, at least. You know, that means the idea of love is perhaps the most important idea, one of the most important ideas in this existence. But if love was stopping civilization from growing and advancing and being ushered into the new rooms that its infinite consciousness is allowed to walk in, it's like, I'm telling you, energy can't fear itself like human psychology can, but energy, I mean, like energy doesn't have a personality, right? So ultimately, if we are dismissed from the personality, if consciousness exists as an unconditional sight, what that means is we suddenly realize at the end of this, let us say, realm, transition beyond this plane, we will kind of recognize that what was in this plane from the pilot is strangely from elsewhere. I feel the ancient wisdoms that said to be in the world were not of it. The unknown can't be feared because we don't know. We don't know it. We don't know enough about it to even fear it. It's like, how can you fear the invisible? It's like you can't, you don't see it. You know, I feel if a person saw radio waves, or they saw, like, I don't know, waves from a Wi-Fi router, like, it would bother them, you know? That means it's like it's as if it's like the eyes are not double-edged, they're multiple-edged. The pilot navigates the plane of existence, and in the airplane there is travelers, there's passengers, and there is stewards, right? In my let's say universe of thought, I've created this term, the advanced communicator. The advanced communicator is like the steward. It's like the airplane hostess. So the advanced communicators are going to the passengers in the realm, the bewildered folk, let's say. The advanced communicators, they're there to be a response to duality. That means chaos and order are fighting. The advanced communicators are there, are like, hey, apple juice or orange juice, you know? And so if there's a war, we can say there's both because they entertain a multidimensional context. The pilot has to be secluded from the advanced communicators to some degree. Maybe a few advanced communicators are in touch with the pilot. Because the pilot can't be selfish. Because the selfishness of the pilot is equivalently the death of the pilot too. So it's kind of like the person treating themselves like a life force, their attention being like how they're piloting their free will. Now, this pilot is aware of, let's say, just like the pilot speaks to the passengers and also says, I don't know, fasten your seatbelts or something. It's just states of mind ultimately. We have a dictionary for words, we don't have a dictionary for states of mind which words can shape, can influence. That means there's like this language video game everybody has just logged into spontaneously, I don't know, at some young age, into being an individual named character in. Now this is one domain of maintenance and like skill is required, and that's one thing I'm happy to see on YouTube. There's a lot of people sharing just the efforts of their life because you never know who you can learn from. Do you know? I will tell you, for the wise, chaos and order are both teachers. They're both sharing what they're doing. You know, that means whether we say something is good or bad, it's like that's just the game of, to some degree, the morality, the game of duality. But I would say beyond that, it's as if just creatures wondering just what is the best strategy. I mean, forget if we like or dislike the strategy. What is it? You know, sometimes it's better to know what what one's dislikes are too. You know, this is something where it took me a while to understand. You know, because one feels just because they can like the world, they can like everyone. And it's not possible, but one can, if one is patient, they just reserve their judgment. Imagine there's this person who's never angry, and they're like, how are you not angry? And the person's like, I'm angry, but I just haven't decided when to release it. The person's angry, you know, like the person could be in an angry conversation, super calm, you know, they're like, okay, okay, but deep down, like, you know, as if like, like going super saiyan, but through rage, you know. So it's like one can philosophically tame their anger. This is so possible. You know, they can just be like, I don't know, you know, because it's choice, really. And I feel one's mind, they are the pilot of also, right? I say pilots of consciousness in so many talks. We are piloting our attention. Right now, me giving this talk, it's like all that I'm aware of is the moment, and the moment trusting enough to share something, to be something. We have seen advanced physical movement. We have seen people do parkour and whatnot. But we haven't seen a specific domain of advanced communication. That means for a start, the educational system could just start a department just dedicated to communication alone. As if it's just the behavior of an organism. So imagine it becomes interesting. Imagine you were a person who you saw all that was of you, and you saw, let's say, all that was of a bunch of other individuals, but then you're like, there's 8 billion, and you wanted to see what the greatness of 8 billion human beings looks like, even. Like, what would that even look like? I feel like I'm looking at like the sky, and it's like, okay, where's the edge? And wisdom would say, right where you start. You know what's strange? It's as if a technological realm has no reason to have morality because it's all programmed. Now, or to some degree, it's unnecessary maybe to fathom the notion of morality for a pure technological civilization. Now, if there wasn't religious intervention, there would not be certain more moral concepts, as if religion is not here to be the steering wheel of politics, but it is in some sense here to be the moral backup system in when man discovers the dehumanized lifeless. That means it's like we're a creature that doesn't know what's going on, and history whispered a story in our ear early on, right? So a certain event was whispered into history's ear. Now, history, this event of like there being something more, the concept of God, or the beyond, whatever culture, it's like 8 billion human beings, different eyes, but it's ultimately the safest way to create a spectrum is just keep it known and unknown. It's either, and that means we have a spectrum of that which is known and unknown, and that which is known with an image, and that which is unknown with an image. right? So for me, it's kind of like us zooming in on everything we know, and finding strategies of just preservation until we have more information for a better strategy. That means one implements the best known strategy, and then after that point, if you know there's a better strategy but you don't know it, like you know there can be one, you have to maintain. So you maintain your stance and you endure. If we could start behaving not as per se just bodies that are howling minds around, but as minds creating the life in their own bodies, which is what's happening. It's like there is a will. Like right now, it's like so many in all these talks I've given, I've always wondered, okay, what is happening in this moment? And in that curiosity, I will tell you, it is just trust in being. Like the moment you trust something, you don't need to move anymore. It's strange, I don't know why, but there's something about trust and the quality of the mind that when you trust the content of your mind, you can become it. That means somebody sees a great violinist and they could just be like, I want to be a violinist. And now they could strangely trust. They could, like in their inner realm, see themselves playing the violin but not hearing it yet. And then having it as a goal to, for example, play the violin, and then some sort of will comes. Ultimately, it's like response, and then world story. So it's like there is something. It's like a living event, and the true texture of reality is underway. That means, I don't know, like the moment the idea of the multidimensional was observable in my consciousness, like I can't accept duality. I mean, it's like good, bad, great. It's like how many other ways are there? Right? So it's so the whole, I find, and this is, I don't know, I'm just sharing, this is one man's vision, but I'll say, I feel, if everybody was classified as an explorer, and their efforts in civilization in a strange quest modality granted them honor points, not money. So we would have to touch money or whatnot, right? And a sort of human system where you are born and everybody's job is to advance civilization. Now, in what domain of it you serve, now by the, let's say, the enlightened societies that will come into function, will govern, will choose, for example. So what I mean by this is that everybody starts first sitting down and for the first time meditating on the idea of an advanced civilization. What would that even look like? I feel in their inner realms they will be able enough to fathom enough to behaviorally readjust to what they feel they can deserve more. Right? And it's not about a sort of more. It's an advanced civilization. It's as if we would say, what would an advanced civilization built with an ego look like? And then we'll be like, okay, what would be a more advanced civilization than that? An advanced civilization that is egoless. That means I could say the most advanced way we can build civilization is by already being the united future. They asked, what's his name? They asked Diogenes, where are you a citizen of? And Diogenes looked at the person and said, I'm a citizen of the cosmopolites. we are identifying with language and geometry, and we feel that is the declaration of the person. We have to start treating that it's like a turtle, where only the head and the limbs are out when it moves. It's like a vast majority of the person is in the unknown, you know? Because every human being can have any potential to do anything at any time, you know? So it's just how the minds are being conducted, how the attention of the person is governed, what kind of world the person sees, you know? That means a time traveler would come down and they'd ask the time traveler, which nation are you from? And the time traveler would laugh for like 10 minutes. They'd be like, why are you laughing? It's like, you guys haven't realized it's one rock yet, you know? So it would be like as a sort of notion where we are living in our imaginations, treating our imaginations as fixed reality, thinking it's going to take so long for civilization to change, not realizing that in some sense the whole point of evolution was to have a free will that could generate for its own worldview a revolution, not an outer like physical violent revolution. And in the person is revolutionizing their own universal context, how they have held the universe in their eyes, because it's like that is the starting point really. And we can say our brains are not computers, so we're not designed to access all information 24/7 and make 100% accurate statements of truth. It's like we're not designed for that, or we would have way more brain storage. Like we would literally have like terabytes of memory, you know, conscious photographic memory, you know. But it's a certain range usually for people. You know, some people maybe they're endowed with more. Some people maybe they don't have a photographic memory, but they have a photographic inner realms. So it doesn't matter if it's a visualization, memory, whatever it is, whatever movement of the mind it arises to them as an image. Those people who take the inner imagery of the inner realms, which is a subjective overlay on the outer realms, and completely become inconsiderate of the outer realms, that's when there's like, you know, there can be, you know, mental turbulence. Because when one is in the unknown, you can't ignore yourself, your true self. You will see it, you are it, but you will see it. You will see what you are. So as if imagine we have another kind of, let me say it this way. In the idea of chakras, in some schools of thought, it was considered to be not just wheels of energy, it was considered different energetic bodies. And the reason they were considered as bodies is that each body is in its own world. So what it meant is it's different dimensions of the person. Now let's say this physical human body we see is like a certain display, but let's say everything the person has done, whether cruel, kind, caring, you know, ruthless, whatever, whatever thing they have done, they would see how their true nature was sculpted based on their access. So that means imagine you have 7 dimensions to you, but you're only seeing let's say one of it, and one of those dimensions, and only from one of those dimensions we are deciding for all 7, right? So at some point the person will either consciously throughout their life discover their greater being, or in some sense they will they will be it regardless, you know. So if one finds contentment through how their mind is eternal, because the mind is not an object, that's why we can say that, but an object, it is technically atomically is immortal. Like objects are technically immortal atoms, yeah. You know, immortal electrons. This whole thing is like, you know, electrons are walking like immortal Greek gods, you know. The electron is the only immortal I see, you know. Simply, it's just the concept of energy. Because it can't be created or destroyed, change is an immortal quality. Change is a fabric of the eternal. Change is an activity for the changeless, pretty much. And I feel silence and stillness are the truth outside of this simulation. A silence and stillness that realizes it's as if your mind reports to you and you're like at ease, like your mind has saluted you like a soldier, right? And so now imagine your body is saluted, and even the soul, the individual soul. And so you were finally wondering, okay, in all these levels of life experience that I went through, what was the fruit of the experience? And it's kind of like a spiral remembrance that the ultimate is doubting. That means there's a 50% chance we're all ultimate beings, right? I'm just shaping one in an 8 billionth probability of it. The era of advanced communicators have come. People should not fear their mind. They should not worship language. Don't do that. It's like never worship language. Just use it as a technology. That is I feel even the force behind it is. Man. The truth of psychology is just where words, images, where language plus okay, so geometry plus geometry plus a conscious agent and an unconscious agent. And really, how can we, like this, you could say this is a philosophical consideration, how can we know what change is if we don't know what the changeless is, right? So our best, it's like we're saying change is the opposite of the changeless. So in order to know something is changing, we have to be able to changelessly observe it, right? The mysteries of consciousness can bring the purity of the presence of the moment to a point where in the future there can be no time. Imagine 50% of human beings are like, okay, why do we have this concept of time? We are associating this language to the movement of celestial phenomena, let's say. We are suggesting that, but at the same time, think about it like it's just a concept attributed to a behavior, but just a cosmological behavior. So it's our own artwork on the wall of the void. So the mystery, the question mark behind the true nature of the realm is always, the more you know, the bigger it becomes, not the smaller. That means it's like, this is what they don't say, but the scholarly intent should just be a battlefield where different people are training. Based on a sort of journey the one goes through, then they have a reason to extract a certain type of knowing from things. It's like one has to decide the context and the concept, pretty much. Study your mind. You'll notice this is the one studying. Study the body because you can. That's pretty. Every person who has fallen from a skateboard, I would say, has experienced, true change, you know. And you know, if we perceive beyond language, pretty much the burden of responsibility comes on human creativity. And if civilization is going to be run by robots in the future, pretty much everything's becoming automated, you know. When drones kick into the civilization, become very normal for there to be drones transferring things all over the planet, all over the society, then it's as if like all those delivery people won't have jobs, you know. So ultimately, we're just left in the creative position, and the challenge of the future generations is to find a physical reason for an infinite creative mind to wield whatever ability there is on the planet towards a great conclusion. That means it's as if, okay, we're alive once, something has to be pushed. So imagine a future, let's say 2220. In 2220, there's the concept of emotions, the way we understand it, thoughts, we understand it, all of these are obscure and ancient, let's say. People will in some sense be just observing communication in very advanced states from multiple avenues. That means any issue or conflict happens, it's as if we reach a realization that anything can be communicated out of. Because communication is changing the attention of the environment, you know. Because we can physically move our body or we can use our voices, you know. You know, the mouth is the only part of the body that has an ability to move a subject. It's like the portal of how what is in the inner realms is shared in the outer realms. In 2020, the multidimensional context would be there, and people will no longer, in some sense, fight. They will just see different angles until they find an angle that is efficient to both. What else can happen? We either learn from the bees and Mr.Within built that beehive, you know, so we aim for the castles in the sky legend. That's my personal strategy. I feel the best thing human beings can spend their time on is building sky cities. Or moving towards there. After the multidimensional renaissance of communication takes place globally, the internet really catalyzed this because for the first time people can't teleport through the internet, but they could share location. So technically the image, we can teleport image and sound all over the planet now. You know, that's why for me it's like it's such a rare opportunity historically to be able to create a free YouTube podcast. It's one of those things none of my ancestors could do, you know, or cared to do, or could have cared to do either. There's so many ways the world moves that I would say it just future wisdom would be the unknown is in the room first. Once we have training, contentment, and strategies to deal with the unknown, then the known dimensions of our life will arise, you know. Because honor, I don't know what it is about the concept of honor, that it's kind of like something is being preserved, but that which is being preserved is not an image per se. It may be a self image, or not even an image, what a self image and the ideal of a certain self image. I feel if a person compares themselves to their past, of course they will see their blind spots. If a person compares themselves to the future, they will see their opportunities. That means future, at least if people are gonna, play the past life game, let's add the future life game to balance it. So Mr.Within is saying, future lives, guys, future. Philosophers will one day come to people who feel there are future lives and be like, hey, is life, if the life person is alive in the future, it's as if whose future? Or how can the future be alive, when it's like an entropic universe? It's like the person did such a deep samadhi that they were like, my meditation went so great that I saw outside of the Milky Way galaxy, and that view of the Andromeda galaxy, three-dimensionally was so brilliant, and and so you see, it's one of those things, the context can stretch. It's just like pizza cheese, like the edge of the universe is like pizza cheese, In the wallpaper, you will notice this individual standing in front of freedom. What can an individual do? The individual can realize if there wasn't the carved path, there would be no way in. It's the honor of what has gotten us by so far that allows us to create an honor. That means it's something that should be, it's like a torch stopped being passed down the moment for survival and due to just how the economical sector is a dimension of society, the honor of one's work was taken away. That means I would say it's way easier to be cruel in modern society than to be kind. And it's strange. It's strange why it has come to this, but ultimately where else can cruelty go? You go to the edge of cruelty and you get bored, and then you realize why kindness is there. Just like your all-you-can-eat buffet, like how many ideas, how many ways of looking at life are there on the planet? So it's not just information allocation, which the educational system trains the person to do, but if it trains them in a bad way, they will have a distaste. That means this is the sacrifice of really teaching. If they teach someone something in a bad way, it could be something important, and because they dislike the teacher, they may not care for it. Or they dislike the method of the teaching, they may dislike it. It's as if the educational system is treating the students like children. And that's the issue. It should be as if human beings should be treated as their most advanced outcome. That means there can always be the argument of, okay, there's these many angles to see something not work. What about how many other ways are there that could work that we haven't seen yet? Right? So it's kind of like your greatest potential is like an invention in the abyss of where thoughts dwell for the person and in that space, and it's a choice. Because there's like, I can understand the melody, but I can't understand why a melody wants to be played, right? So that philosophically takes you to a point where you're like, no way, I have reached the edge of the forest of language. So then you go towards your direct experience. Now, it's very difficult to maintain 20, I'll speak on behalf of this, maintain throughout the whole day a 24/7 presence. It is difficult at first to maintain that presence, just as if just this being your whole moment. But what you notice is that whenever you are your whole moment, it's as if your attention expands. It expands out. That means it's kind of like a person being in a room. Then imagine now the person having their awareness be all the space in the room watching them. So they have become the room that they were once in. Right? They have become the room of their own mind. You know? So it's a suggestion of just the ability of how from just this empty just blank page of just a simple present moment where a biological creature is on earth, on a physical earth, just being still and silent, to a point of consideration of, okay, what else moves the moment one has that stillness, right? So the nature of the body, it's as if like we have perhaps a big thing that we need to bypass as a species is the archetype, how we have accepted the first wave of archetypes in branding life, death, and the beyond as separate, rather than seeing them all there at once, as if truth has nowhere to go, but the illusion is always running. The fairest thing to say is not that we can measure people's intelligence, is that we don't know the potential of intelligence. And because we don't know the potential of intelligence, the whole branding, emotions attached to identity game kind of goes out of the picture. And people become just pilots of their will. And they can choose to pilot collectively in the conscious human opportunity, or in some sense it's as if, because the healthiest approach, I mean, I'm saying, to me, I feel as just a backup strategy for all temporary creatures in the realm, exploration is the best state of mind to have. Wonder. That means the person's like, wait a minute, if I'm in a wondrous state of mind, does that mean I will go into a wondrous place? That means that true care for like what else is there, because it's a fun game to play. Being God is easy. Discovering what man is really man's role in this whole universal activity is, right? That means the first alien contact human beings need to make is not with aliens in front of their eyes. It's with the nature of their mind. The mind is alien to us, right? No human beings have been able to speak about it, but it's like speaking about a river through the language of a drop. Like, it's impossible. Unless the drop is in the river, the moment the drop is in the river, its nature is that, right? So one's nature is where their attention is. Now, when in Vedanta they say Purusha and Prakriti, consciousness and matter, the simultaneity of phenomenology and numerology. We are inside elemental mobile suits, and if we treat it that way, the fear of the outcome can be delayed. Can be as if we put Ray-Ban glasses when the sun was hitting our eyes, It's just being still enough to realize you are being before you do anything. That being is complete content and is itself. That means the unknown is unknown. That means the ultimate is ultimate. That's it. When one is done being that, then the burden of responsibility that God had to wield comes to the person who has attained, as mystical context would say, that union. So what that means is, think of it this way. let's say that in polytheistic traditions, I'm going to give a commentary on the polytheistic view for a second. Let's say you're a person in a polytheistic religion and you worship a god, but you also believe that man can attain a god state, which is the concept of moksha and enlightenment. So it's as if the person is worshiping God, right? Worshiping an idol of God, but then the person has become God. So are they worshiping themselves now? So I'm saying it was never about the language that just gave us access to it first. It's about the ability we can have. That means it's like the healthiest approach. We're 8 billion unknown pilots, unknown moving mobile spheres of awareness moving on the surface of this earth. We value the human being properly. We value the human mind properly. We value the human soul properly. We value the world properly. And all of these are not, I'm just, again, one person speaking, but in the vision I see, it's like you can't fix anything you don't care for. And if somehow civilization is making its members not care for it, that's an inefficient civilization. That's a bad design. Like it's as if like when you realize we're on a rock in the middle of nowhere, it's like this kind of youthful hope. It's like, oh my God, what if we could rewrite the story of the world where everybody could fit in? A story that was advanced enough where everybody... And you see it can be possible, but how? It's not experientially going to be accessible now. That means a farmer that has apple seeds in his hand can't expect to just eat an apple. That farmer has to rely on the apples of the trees before. But when you plant the seed, nobody knows the future of that apple seed. And I feel consciousness is like that. It's something that's like seeded or opening its eyes in the biology, growing out its potential, which is innately imbued. As if there was programming before there was programming. I feel the completion of life perhaps may be a state where one has experienced directly the honor of being a known self in the realm, being known to oneself, the honor of being unknown to oneself, and the honor of the world, being able to participate in a world, to know this. And to honor also being able to having witnessed the unknown world. Those are blessings where these eyes may not comprehend. Everything a person does is think of it training. The advancement of skill will be the salvation of civilization. We must not fear the future, because if we fear it, our future generations are going to be born and going to be like, look at these cowards, you know. So we need to look good in front of the future. We gotta step up. That means how do we advance civilization? We feel embarrassed in front of the greatness and greatest potential of our future, and then we act accordingly. Perhaps that is where the free will of 8 billion human beings requires the pilot in the outer realms. Advanced civilization somehow. It doesn't mean directly your whole life has to be, it has to be in your attention. Every person chooses what comes in their attention. As Sri Ramana Maharshi says, let what comes come, let what goes go, see what remains. Seeing what remains that's the crucial thing. From the edge of impurity, your mind feels what its future deserves. I don't know how to say it. And patience, that's the biggest life lesson. That's the thing I'm learning every moment. Every moment in my life, I'm learning. You know, it's funny. Life sometimes makes you feel you are offbeat. Sometimes it makes you feel you're on beat. Sometimes it makes you see like completely the beat to a point where it's like you have to create reasons to preserve your humanization to yourself. Like that's why I'm saying it's a domain of advanced communication. That means mysticism, philosophy. These need to have a rating. They need to have a rating in front of their doors, a rating system for concepts. I feel, and I don't know if a rating system really helps, but they need to have at least a proper introduction, not a rating system, an introductory preview, right? Because some concepts are heavy. They're heavy if you want to, if you feel like you can know anything. A person who feels they can know anything, it can sometimes be burdensome because it's like you don't have discrimination if you have an all-out mentality sometimes. So the cost of going all out is I don't know. It's as Salvador Dali says, don't fear perfection, you'll never reach it. So what that means is not a conditional perfection, but an unconditional awareness that is perfect before the concept of perfection. It is its nature. Because all that I'm doing is sharing my mind, and all that I'm saying is that the ego, the identity I am, is acting like a person who is literally, there's a river. Like I've put my hand in a river, and I am splashing people with the water of that river, right? and that's how people are hearing it. I don't know how else to explain it, but that river is not physical. It is intelligent movement before we were still enough to be a position that could forget itself. That means the concept of reality requires us to forget that we imagined it. So when we realize it is abstraction being held in attention, the person can choose even their ideological structure. But sometimes, I don't know. If we care for the advance, we will see it. If we care for anarchy, we will see that. If people open their eyes and they fear the realm, there will be more simulations of fear. That means the more people are scared, as if the more reasons to be afraid arise. But if conceptually it was just different, it's as if everything is just some sense, there's a geometrical dimension to it, then emotional overlay, subjective overlay, and all that. I would say communication is like literally a person painting in silence. Because language leads to an image, you know. Anytime a person says, I don't understand what you're saying, is because the other person's communication, it didn't communicate an image properly, you know. These are important distinctions. What it goes on in front of our eyes, the outer realms and the inner realms. You know, in Tibetan Buddhism, there's a gem of wisdom that says, unless you conquer anger, your enemies your enemies will be inexhaustible. That means in any state of mind you will be. If you're angry, you animate a certain projection. You attract a certain projection. So now I thought, if the world is in a strange, cruel situation, and we are living in, let's say, a cruel and difficult circumstance, existential circumstance, it's as if, that would mean to conquer our anger would mean we would have to forgive everything happening in the outer realms. Could that perhaps mean true detachment? Where a person is it's as if like an actor in a show, in a manifest show, and this actor at the end of the performance, it's done. You know, it's as if the way the life force moves doesn't make it essential that this kind of display be there. You know, because you know what's strange? It's as if we all say we are the free will right now, but it's as if we have to free the will from the idea of free will. You know? You see, in these talks, if I have spoken properly, if I've done something right, it would be, hopefully I was able to show people the edge of the language threshold in the conceptual linguistic simulation that we entertain on a day-to-day basis. Because the moment you notice the edge of the language threshold, you will suddenly find an appreciation and fascination that you right now are the divinity in your own eyes. You are the moving intelligence in the room. You are, as Rumi says, wherever you are, be the soul of that moment. You are the soul of your moment. May this be heard as if lions couldn't roar louder. Eight billion human beings, they pilot their inner realm, stabilize it. We restructure the outer realms towards an advanced multidimensional effort, an angle of civilization, tolerant, lenient, and incredibly capable. An advanced civilization that if there was an alien civilized, like an extraterrestrial alien civilization invaded Earth, and there was, let's say, interference, like telepathic interference, we would be such advanced communicators, we would be exactly able to classify what is changing in our inner realms, what is going on, and how many levels it's going on, to what degree, what linguistic classification it will fall under, all of these advanced modalities and strategies to come to respond to the moment. You know, our hands are empty until we pick up something, you know, and what we should pick up should only be a tool, and that is it. That means only pick up tools in this realm, nothing else. That means if your phone is a tool, you know, because it's like anything can be misused, you know, even words. What I have been guilty of in some moments is that I have gotten angry, and in that anger, I hadn't been able to preserve a certain dimension of behavior from myself. You know, that means it's as if some people get upset in front of themselves, and some also in front of the world. But that's, you know, to some degree, realms are different. Every person is walking with a world in their eyes. A world so vast, it holds all the worlds they have seen so far and all the worlds they will go on to see. We are like fragments of infinity. The most rarest event in nature. And I feel we are not alone. As Terence McKenna, the scholar, says, there is another tenant in the room. There is intelligence here at work rhythmically. And if an advanced civilization invaded, we would be such advanced communicators, we would instantly be able to retaliate or understand, and we would communicate. But we can even say the case, let's say an incredibly advanced and enlightened alien species arrived, but they didn't have mouths. And we're like, no way, these aliens are super peaceful, enlightened, their energy, their auras heal people when they go around them, you know. And they're peaceful, you know, and these aliens were telepathic, and they'd be communicating to us this advanced, peaceful, enlightened, let's say, civilization, you know. And we would be like, oh my God, our communication game is not up to par. Like, we like, that's why we need to have advanced communication, I'm saying. Eventually there will come a reason for realizing we all are the early birds. Every person alive, we have just awakened on this planet early with technological access and natural will as well. I feel like, just imagine how this would look like. I could see it in my inner realms, where all over the planet, like imagine if extraterrestrials were watching from the clouds or something, I don't know, invisible. Who knows? I mean, the moment you say the aliens are invisible, who knows where they are? You know? But I'm saying if they would look at us and they'd be like, all right, these creatures are physically moving, but what else are they doing? They're communicating. They're discussing, they're asking questions about the nature of their world, they're being fearless in zooming in and zooming out and wielding the ability. That means it's as if nobody is caring for a story of the world. It's just like this, to some degree, it comes ability of the civilization. It's as if it's like beyond, you know, the issue is we have made information more important than skill. If we replace these two, if we make it in the sense where people and the educational system is caring for not just, like, it needs such a deep reform, I can't even get into it in this talk. But it would ultimately be as if we are multidimensional explorers, and there will be an incredible honor system. I don't know, I'm starting to feel I need to dedicate something to this, you know. It's like, when will we honor as a species? You know, when? Oh, man. To be honest, intelligence can be in the void. Intelligence can be everything, which some people have called God, you know. Intelligence can be in a dualistic framework, like another person, like a Superman could be an alien. You know, and you know, the alien could be, intelligence can come even in an infinite way, like an unfathomable kind of energetic existence that we can't even it's not visually accessible to. You know, I don't know, those under the table of the gods or something. under the clouds, you know, of language, you know, we cannot fathom. When we pilot beyond language, that is where true mysticism becomes, and the person has to accept all that they are, not with the behavioral thing. In some sense, you're sitting still and silent and just watching what your mind has become or is. or how it's happening. It's like watching how your mind is happening to yourself. You know, I mean, it can become very joyful if the person, just the whole point of meditation being completely still and silent at the moment and just watching, as if there is an endless film generator and we don't realize this and we dismiss it. We think we are not creative because we think we're a thought, and we don't realize it was our creativity that created the word thought. You know, it's now is a time where artists need to, in some sense, go lift, the past. It's as if, you know what it is. It's as if instead of the present taking the past into like towards itself, the present is saying to the past, what are you doing judging the present? Go judge your future. And the future is in one angle. That means it's kind of like befriending your mind, where your own past doesn't bother you. But it doesn't mean you become desensitized to your behavior. Like the whole point of advancing communication is not that we just look like it's like yay. It's like we have a badge or something. You know, it would be, or like a pilot's cap or something. You know, it would be more like who saw the efficiency in the moment first and who activated it first. That means, imagine there was this law, okay, that said anybody who in some sense did an act of kindness, and in a sci-fi context, I've predicted that in the future the phones are going to be these spheres that are going to just like hover around in the air and follow people, and they're going to be ultimate surveillance, and this is going to be in a trusted surveillance state of civilization. And so there's no such thing as the forbidden for an explorer. Like, the concept doesn't make sense. You know, the explorer's like, I'm just exploring, you know. It's like the gods are like, why did you touch Thor's hammer? It's like, I'm just exploring here, give me a break. You know, I'm just an evolved primate, just moving around, chill, you know. Oh man, there's so many ways language can be wielded. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Pilot your free will. It took you 4.5 billion years to evolve to be able to do that. You know, the purpose of life, when emotions come, we kind of romanticize the past, and it is possible to even romanticize the future, where you get a sort of nostalgia feeling, you know. But it's also like a future nostalgia. I've experienced that so many times. I've never said the word like this, a future nostalgia, but oh my god, like that a feeling as if like the future has happened, and its echoes are just waving, or like, you know, I don't know how to say it, but it's like this. It's like a silent interdimensional event that we are feeling, but if we could see, it would not be this. Because we know light is like the smallest energy carrier system we consider. And so light is in some sense it's as if visual light, reality is light that doesn't burn the eyes. When the sky is edgeless, who says our visions can't be? An advanced civilization could just be like an endless effort. That means it becomes so advanced, it can get to a point where, imagine this is so in the future, where civilization, they ask, like right now it's going to take us a while to build the advanced civilization, but in the future, imagine, they say, how long did it take for civilization to change? 1 nanosecond. In 1 nanosecond, everything instantaneously in all the civilization was could just change instantly. Considering civilization is the behavior of human beings, right? But now, the more we understand ourselves, it's pretty much like now free will is in the biological body. When we get to a point, whether through natural mishap or whatever, where we can't endure and continue through the biological body, but we find a way to transfer consciousness technologically, how many people who know that the human body is going to go extinct are going to be willing to transfer their consciousness into technological endless continuity? Right? So I don't feel it's going to be everyone, but it's going to be like a certain percentage of human beings will do that. Right? So, and the moment we become conscious through machines, we are immortal, technically. So the future may be strange, and the future may be even very completely different than what I'm saying. You know, I see myself as just a seer of thought. Just a human being that was here for some time, saw some things, said some things, and then, we return to the grand game, to the true, not self-judgment, but or I would say it's like judging your own eyes as the universe, as if you will suddenly see everything you could not see, all the blind spots. Because there is no central point, so space has the authorization of movement of the will. And imagine the person who was meditating to liberate themselves from the like an extreme yogic way of like from material desire, and then they're like, no way, it's a parallel reality. Like, and how many realities do I need to renounce? And how many types of worlds do I need to, in some sense, behave in? You see, our eyes are mystery incarnate. The era of advanced communication has come. Human beings should not care. I feel they should release novelty into the realm, but novelty with a decency of the ultimate kind of context of a win-win strategy for the individuals and the collective governing systems. That means it's like if we were truly advanced, we all won from the beginning. We all win from the beginning. That would be the most advanced, I would say. And so at least, like I would say, the assignments of people, imagine children in school, their homework is go figure out how you can advance civilization. And they're like, why? And we'll be like, because there's nothing else to do here. That is the greatest thing to do here in this world. That means even if one loses their self-honor, even if one feels they're nothing, they would be like, okay, the species is something in this. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I'll be on Discord for those interested. And pilot your free will. It is a joy, but also abide. That means I'm not saying become a bulldozer of just one viewpoint, thinking everything is going to be that viewpoint. It's like this realm is alive. It's like it's living, and one can choose to communicate as it. They can choose to communicate with it. They can choose to communicate through it, and they can even choose not to communicate. That is, for me, a person like in like the Mount Shasta area, channeling like aliens or something, like that person, what he's doing is equivalent to me, to someone who doesn't do anything at all. Like, what's going on there, right? There's something happening in the mind space. And so an era of minds means every human being is like their mind needs to be encouraged more than just their physical display. We're not just the periodic table, self-glorifying itself. There's more here, way more. And in the unknown, man is telling stories. You know, sometimes it's like these talks were Mr. Within's gift, but they were also like the lament of Annie Jonah. That's like, you know. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Namaste.